Greetings, everybody. We're here to answer 5 questions for Tinsel and Time about our newest film, Sundown Road. It's a short horror film, horror-ish film, and we're going to be having a world premiere screening at the BlackStar Film Festival on Saturday, August 5th at 2:30 p.m. at the Suzanne Roberts Theater in Philadelphia. So I am Asli Dukan. I am the writer and director of Sundown Road.
I'm Nikki Harmon. I am the producer of Sundown Road.
All right,
I'm
so
going to ask Asli the first question. All right, in a nutshell, what was the main inspiration for Sundown Road and the theme that is the heart of your film? Go.
I would say that the inspiration for Sundown Road happened during the heyday of COVID, pre-vaccines. And like a lot of people, I was stuck in the house and worried about what was going on in the outside world. And so having a lot of anxiety around that. And I needed to express it artistically. So I decided to, also as a filmmaker, work on writing, because that's pretty much all we could do at that time. So I wanted to write a short, horror-ish, anxiety-ridden script that kind of brought that idea into a film world. And I want it to be, traditional kind of the 3-act-ish structure, and just write a short, tight script with a few people in like one location. As I was working on it, the idea of connecting it to Sundown Town theme came to mind as a bigger kind of idea of like thinking about you're in a safe space, but really in reality you're not, right? Especially for like populations of Black folk or people, Latinx people or Asian people, but predominantly Black folk all around the United States, kind of like being in these towns that are unwelcoming, and just thinking about like themes of sundown town, the racial discrimination and intimidation and often violence that would come with sundown towns. So I kind of wanted to bring all those kind of things together in a short kind of script. And this is, I had no thoughts that it would be produced so soon. It was just more of like me getting my own feelings out and connecting it to something bigger in the world. Like I often write near future kind of scenarios. So this is kind of a first time where I wrote something contemporary that was really referencing the past a bit.
Okay, awesome. The second question is, tell us a bit about the music. Who did you work with and what did you want to convey?
Mm-hmm. Well, for the music, I worked with a company in Philadelphia, and specifically one person in the company. The company's called Dragonfly Audio Post, and I work with Rich Hamilton. He also works with Ben Wong at this company, but I primarily worked with Rich Hamilton on the music. A little bit more than that. He also did the sound editing and sound design for it, but we specifically worked on kind of thinking about what kind of music could complement this contemporary kind of horror, historical horror story. And I do remember when I was kind of like thinking about how to talk about the music that I was referencing the way, for instance, the music in The Shining, when The Shining, the horror film by Stanley Kubrick, the way it immediately puts you into the headspace of this kind of uncomfortable horror situation. And that music was done by Wendy Carlos. And so I wanted something to feel like immediately as the film opens, you are in a horror film. All right. I didn't want anything like contemporary playing on the radio, kind of like complimenting what these 3 young people who are driving on a road would listen to. I wanted to put the audience immediately into the tone, this horror-ish tone of the film. So so working with Ben on that for a couple of months, maybe 3 months or so, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. It feels very cinematic, but it also kind of I think does what I wanted to jump us right into the film.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'll ask you the third question. I'd love
Okay.
to have you talk a little bit about the experience. So what day of shooting created the biggest challenge to overcome?
Well, I would say every day was challenging because it was the 3 hottest days of the summer 2022 that we shot, and I think the heat was the biggest challenge, and that it was entirely exterior. So it seemed like a good idea at the time because of COVID and everything that we shoot the whole thing outside, and of course the story was taking place outside. But I guess we hadn't anticipated that it would be 100 degrees all those 3 days, and just keeping everybody hydrated and taking breaks and staying cool and trying to keep the equipment in the shade and the food in the shade and all of that was pretty challenging, and trying to take breaks as much as possible while still getting everything done that we needed to get done.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. Not only the hottest days, but also on the side of a hill with the sun right in front of us, like we were on a stage and the
Yeah.
sun was our audience.
Yep. What about you? What was the biggest challenge for you?
That was definitely one, but I would say maybe on the emotional level, excuse me, on an emotional level, um, going when we were location scouting for the short film, we had went out to see this location, and it's outside of Philadelphia in Westchester. We found ourselves while on location looking at the roads that we wanted to shoot on in a space that kind of really, in my head, reflected the themes that we were kind of approaching in the film, the themes of violence. There was, people live differently and they do certain things. And I would, there might have been a gun range not too far from where we were location scouting. And we were hearing gunfire while we were kind of going through this process. And that worried me a little bit. I'm not, having the thought that we were so in proximity to a place where people were shooting guns for whatever purpose was problematic. But we talked to people, we kind of researched it a little bit more and kind of set up what we needed to set up with the city and the police just to make sure that we were kind of going to be safe and secure during our shoot. And it turned out to be no problems whatsoever during the production. But emotionally, that connection between the themes of racial intimidation and violence. And just kind of being in a place where that kind of activity was happening was a little bit upsetting going into the production for me. But we did what we needed to do to make sure everybody was safe and secure. So,
yep.
And we had no problems during the shoot.
Nope. But I agree with you that part of the issue with it was that you just never knew if it was going to be a problem or not. And that's also kind of one of the themes of the film. It's like you could be fine, but you might not be. And you just don't know. And that uncertainty is like anxiety inducing. But speaking of locations, let's give a quick shout out to Lois Moses, who somehow ended up being the angel of the shoot by helping us find that location, which was perfect in every way except for the shooting part. It had nothing to do with Lois. But Lois lives in Westchester and had a cousin who was generous enough to let us use his home as a home base for the production. And he was super kind and just generous all around with trying to let us use the restrooms and his kitchen and all that stuff. And I don't think without that kind of support that it would have been as successful as it was, especially because it was so hot those days and we really needed like a place for talent to be someplace where they could be cool while we waited to shoot. So big shout out to Seth. Last name, he probably doesn't want me to say his last name anyway. And Lois, who were really helpful to the shoot.
Absolutely. So grateful to both of them. Cool. Let's see. We have one more question to answer.
What's your 5 favorite films, Asli?
My 5 favorite films. This is always a favorite question to answer. An ever-changing list depending on what time I was asked in my life and what I recently watched. I guess going back, I can add a couple of old standards. As I said, I often make near future kind of speculative films. And so I've always been a fan of like sci-fi and that kind of dystopian version of the genre. So I would say, even though this is kind of more like outside of dystopian, but I do like Alien, old standby of mine, just kind of an alien, survival, a survival film against an alien with a woman protagonist. Kind of like was something that I really loved when I was younger. As I got a little older, kind of staying in a speculative genre, I came across Ganja and Hess, which is an artistic Black vampire film by a Philadelphia native, Bill Gunn. That's been an old standby of mine, kind of thinking around themes of addiction and class and things like that. Of late, I'll also say La Jetée by Chris Marker was also a short film made up of photographs primarily. Has always been an old favorite of mine. And Born in Flames by Lizzie Borden, kind of 1980s Lower East Side New York. I'm from New York, so it kind of hits me in a different way. Kind of Black, kind of radical, queer, kind of socialist, kind of society uprising in the society. Yeah, it's all those things and more. Just kind of all those themes of queerness and blackness and socialism in New York and revolution and just like women kind of like like trying to make a better society. But really low budget independent film that I really enjoy. And then I'd say the last one of somebody I had been familiar with, but I hadn't seen one of her films till recently, the past few years or so, Samizanga by Sarah Maldoror, kind of African descended. I think she's from the Caribbean, made films in Africa around the revolution and with women protagonists, and kind of like also touching upon kind of historical, real life historical situations around revolutions in Africa. What I would say is one of my favorites right now. What about you, Nikki? What are your 5 favorite films that are your desire?
Well, the question said also what films made you want to go into filmmaking. So I can give the first 2 films that like made me think that filmmaking was a possibility as a career or vocation would be She's Gotta Have It, Spike Lee, She's Gotta Have It, and Rose Troshi, I really don't know how to pronounce her last name, I apologize. Go Fish. I love both those movies. I felt like I could make those movies with my friends in a weekend or 2. And I just love their aesthetic. I love the black and white, and they were simple, but they just did so much. And I was just really inspired by them to pursue filmmaking. I would say Sophie's Choice was an inspiration only because it was kind of like after sobbing at that movie that I realized how powerful filmmaking was and how you could really just make people feel things in the moment, and really, I don't want to say manipulate keeps coming to my mind, but it's more like I don't know how you could make people feel and feel emotions and empathize in deep ways. And I just thought that it was there was really nothing so powerful in media or communication or anything in the world that just kind of did that for people. And then Red Lantern, which is like, I don't even know who the filmmaker is. I just went through like a Chinese film.
I'm not going to try to pronounce the name, but their name, because I unfortunately am not.
Yeah, I know Gong Li.
I can see it.
Yeah, but like at some point in my life, I was just visiting I would just live at the Ritz, at the Boris and the Ritz East, and just watch a bunch of foreign films. And I think that was just kind of liberating for me, and just widened my perspective on the world and made me also really cognizant of the fact that you could learn a lot about other cultures, other ways of living, other civilizations. Also kind of reminded me how much I didn't know about the world, but also was like an entree into just immersing yourself in like other cultures' stories. And I felt like that was really powerful as well, and a way to connect with people who, normally you wouldn't be able to connect with. Yeah, Raise the Red Lantern. Yeah, I love that movie. I saw it like, I don't know how many times. And then finally, I think like Daughters of the Dust, Julie Dash's Daughters of the Dust was also like, just like a mind-blowing movie for me. I just thought it was so beautiful and powerful and sad and funny and poignant, but not like overbearing. And it just tackled so much. And I just thought it was like one of those perfect movies. And I found it really inspirational too. So
that was amazing. And just to be complete, because we should respect the filmmaker's name. As a person who has a name that is often pronounced incorrectly, it's Zhang Yimou.
Thank you.
I believe the pronunciation might be Yimou too, but we'll just put it out there since they were mentioned.
Yeah.
Cool. That's an amazing list. And yeah.
I feel like I could go watch all those films right now and be as excited and
absolutely. That's how it should be.
Yeah. I could watch them 1,000 times. Yeah.
Cool. Well, then this completes our replies to the 5 questions for Tinsel and Tine. And again, our film will be screening at the BlackStar Film Festival on Saturday, August 5th at 2:30 p.m. in the Perturbed Shorts program at the Susan Roberts Theater. hope to see you all there. And thank you for watching.
Yep. Thanks.
Okay, couple more. Go. You got it, Marie?
Yeah.
Thank you.